Hi, and welcome to On the Ride 25. This is our 7th episode, and we have a special guest today, Andrew Bosco.
Hey, guys.
And, of course, we have Scott. You guys all know Scott.
Oh, yeah.
And on this show, we're going to talk about, Bosco Fit. So we're going to talk about bike fitting and, why you should or why you shouldn't, if it's worth it or a waste of time. Before that, we are going to talk a little bit about bicycle advertising. So we're going to talk about this just for a second because I've watched a bunch of ads, and I always wonder who they're marketing it to, because I see a bunch of guys on $15,000 bikes that are maybe 20, 25 years old, fit-looking dudes, maybe cyclists, maybe not. And I'm thinking, who at that price, who could afford that bike? I think it's pretty funny because, you'd think you'd want at least a fit 40 or so. We are the demographics of that price bike.
Might be just a little bit of jealousy that we're not the ones that are in the ad.
Well, I said a fit, handsome guys. Yeah. So that eliminates at least us in some of the different parts. So, but no, it's like, how about advertising to the people you're looking for? Before they were trying to advertise to every single group there was, right? And now it just looks like they're trying to get this young, fun group of people that are never going to afford that bike. I don't mind having like a couple young guys on this, young girls and that kind of stuff, but have people that can afford the bike maybe. Like a guy driving up in his Ineos and getting out of it, and
or the people that are more likely going to actually be purchasing the bike, not people that are going to be trying to race their way to a free one or influence their way to a free $50,000 bike.
Well, I'll do you guys one crazier. Most of the people, those really young 25 and age group that they have in those types of videos, they didn't grow up on bikes like we did.
Well, some of them you can see. I'm not going to name any of the ads because they're kind of funny, but I've seen guys you could tell don't really ride. They're ripped and they look good.
Instagram fit. Not cycling.
The dead giveaway, not one speck of road rash.
Oh no! And they're a little
not one scar here,
and a little too buff usually too.
And always the sunglasses are inside of the helmet straps.
That's always a dig.
Gotta get that.
We've talked giveaway.
You got to get the sunglasses on the outside of the helmet straps.
We've brought that up multiple times. Oh, so that was my little rant. I wanted to start on something here. So we'll get back to what we've got Bosco here for. So Bosco does a fitting service, and let's talk about, first of all, I've known him we just discussed for over 20 years.
I told him not to say it out loud. 20 years is a long time.
They raced with my son, and we traveled all over the U.S. together. Yeah. We've had great times. We've almost gotten in fights. We've had love fest. It's been a really, really fun time. It was like, looking back on it, was a great time. It really was.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't change any of it.
No, it was great. So let's talk about what made you decide to get into fitting.
Yeah, my first bike fit was when I was 16, and I went from like a bad bike rider to a decently mediocre. So I knew that at a pretty young age that it did make a difference. But it was always something that I went in to get a bike fit, but it wasn't something that I had considered providing a service of. And then when I met my now wife in 2013, Sam has a number of ailments.
Sam Bosco, for you know, she is more famous than all of us combined.
She's definitely more famous than I am. Sam has a number of disabilities with her right leg, and she was already riding at a pretty high level. She had just earned her Cat 1 as a disabled athlete, racing with able-bodied athletes, but the discomforts and the pain that she was having was diminishing her quality of life. And so I really started to dig into how can I help her be more comfortable, go faster, but more than anything, make it so that she doesn't have to be suffering off of the bike every day. My wife is Samantha Bosco. She's a Paralympic athlete. She's been to 2 Paralympic Games. She did okay, I think. Didn't you do okay? She won a gold medal in Paris last summer.
Not bad.
She won 2 bronze medals in Rio at her first Paralympic Games. She's won 5 world championships or national championships than I can count. Yeah. She wins more races in 3 months than I've won in my entire career.
We'll hopefully have her on some other episode, but
it'll be far more interesting than what I have to say.
Maybe, yeah. And she'll look better too, but that's a whole nother story.
Definitely. But because of Sam and the ailments that she was dealing with, it really sparked my passion for finding a way to help other athletes enjoy their bikes more, ride their bikes faster, but more than anything, not deal with day-to-day pains that can come along with cycling. And Sam was actually the one that pushed me a little bit more into going to bike fit school and helped get the whole business rolling. And I show up to the office every day, but she keeps the wheels on the bus. So
what bike fit school did you go to?
I went to, it's at Psychologic in Scottsdale, Arizona, with Pork McGlynn. They offer a range of like levels of bike fitting, as well as fitting different types of bikes depending on the demographic of fitting that people are interested in getting into. And
you guys will see the studio. The studio is beautiful. Did you just redo it? It looks really nice.
We just finally, on July 11th. So yeah, in a few days, we'll be celebrating our 8th year of doing bike fitting in our space. And we finally actually made it ours. We knocked a couple walls down and opened up the space and made it a bit brighter. So
it looks great.
Yeah,
it looks really good.
It makes going to work even that much more enjoyable for me.
I bet.
So when you started this business, was it like a hobby? Did you think this is what you're going to do, or were you doing it out of a bike shop? Where were you at this point?
I wasn't 100% convinced that I even wanted to do it when I went to bike fit school. I showed up for the first day with an open mind of this is potentially something that I'll want to do, but I didn't want to go I'm going to put all my eggs in this right away. I was working at a bike shop at the time, and I knew that depending on how it went, I could potentially offer the service through the shop as well. So I went there going in with an open mind of what is the world of bike fitting even look like? And within about an hour of the first day, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to be. So we spent every dime that we had to start buying equipment and cameras and getting ready to open up a space. But I was still a little bit nervous at first. So yeah, I was doing part-time doing fits, part-time at the bike shop. And after about 9 months, it was time to just push all the chips in and dedicate my time to my business. And yeah, I've been just bike fitting now for, we'll call it 7.5 years.
No, it's great. And you've built a big reputation, and I know it's hard to even get in. What's your schedule? How far ahead do you need to get into get a bike fit right now?
Currently, we are 3.5, 4 weeks. As bad as COVID was for a lot of people, it was great for the bike industry, and so many people got into cycling, and even still today, probably 70% of the people that still come to see me started riding in that time period of 2020, 2021. So at the peak of, we'll call it the bike business, the bike boom during the pandemic, I was booked out Monday through Saturday from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. I was just, all I did was work, which then helped build my brand. It helped build my clientele. It helped build my business. And I've been super fortunate along the way to retain a lot of my clients, and a lot of the people that come to see me is word of mouth. And yeah, I stay pretty busy.
I mean, come on, honestly though, why would I go to get a bike fit? I literally have seen people doing it on YouTube a million times. I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's an interesting time because there's so much good information. The quality of information is a bit better than it used to be. So when people do come in to see me, most people aren't bike mechanics. Most people, if you tell them to lift their seat up and down, they can do that. But if you move it forward and after and it changes the tilt, now they have no idea how to get it back in the right spot, right? Well, where you make one small adjustment and affect something else, and doing that on your own without being able to see yourself becomes increasingly more difficult, right? So when you come in to see a professional bike fitter, it's really about them being able to step back, see you as the entire system and how everything is working together. And doing that on your own is, I don't want to say is not impossible, but it is more and more difficult than it seems.
How much is a bike fit? $50, $70? What is that?
Bike fits will range depending on the amount of technology that bike fitters are using, right? So if you have, I think the going rate of a more basic style bike fit, what we'd refer to as a static bike fit, the going rate's around $200. When you start getting into more technology, the video analysis, the pressure analysis, all these things, then you push into the $500 or $600. I think some of these guys that are on YouTube are charging people even more to come in so that they can film them during their bike fits.
Wow, I could literally buy a set of wheels for that.
You can buy a set of wheels, or some sweet upgrades to your bike.
Let's be honest, you're not buying a set of wheels for your bike in the $500 range.
Come on, this is This is for the show here.
But
it's for the gram. Come on.
Yeah.
Honestly, you've been doing fits, and I'm a big fan of it. Obviously, I've been fit for a long time, and it does make a big difference. But it's hard to convince people that it's something you can't see.
It's difficult to sell the service sometimes, especially for athletes that are just getting started, or even people that only have 1 or 2 hours a week to ride their bike. Right? Well, the people that they're targeting in those ads that we were talking about that ride 250, 300 miles a week, not everybody has that kind of time. And it's like, well, why would I get a bike fit if I'm only riding, 50 miles a week? And I like to tell people is if riding your bike is what allows you to escape from reality, to helps you alleviate your stress, why do you want to be uncomfortable during that time? Or why wouldn't you want to go faster to get some new Strava PRs and things like that? You had mentioned the money that you could spend to get a bike fit, you can upgrade your bike. But for a lot of people, the bike fit can increase the performance more than what most wheels would give you, right? So it doesn't look as cool. You get a little sticker on the seat post when you come to see me. It doesn't look as shiny as a nice new pair of the new 4.5 NB Pros that dropped today with the silver hubs and everything.
Those did look sweet, by the way.
I know.
So let's talk on your bike fits. Are you a fan of these short cranks? That's the big trend. Everyone's going 155, 165, no one runs, I'm still running 172.5. I'm old dude. I'm sure I could
relatively
switch
old.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, so
it's funny because I was thinking about all of the questions that you'll potentially ask me, and I was like, 100% they're going to ask me about shorter cranks.
Short cranks. That's what we're talking. That's the number one thing.
Short cranks are the trend. I do agree that a decent amount of people can benefit from shorter cranks. When I'm working with athletes, the groups that I typically will recommend shorter cranks to are athletes that are limited in flexibility and range of motion. Short athletes, disproportionately, are more at a disadvantage than taller athletes when it comes to crank length. If you just look at the percentage of your inseam that a crank length takes up, the shorter you are, the bigger that is, right? So shorter athletes, aero athletes, triathletes, time trialists, because the hip angle is so steep in those positions, opening up the hip angle does help to increase the efficiency. And the last group is athletes that have had major knee injuries, hip injuries, back injuries, right? Take pressure off of the joints. So a lot of people can tick those boxes. So a lot of people can benefit from shorter cranks, but not everybody has to have shorter cranks.
Then why is the big trend in the Pro Tour, especially on the GC guys? It's because I've looked at the cranks of a lot of the more power guys. They're still running 172s, 170s, but it seems like all the Toddy started it. And you see Jonas has now got I can go shorter.
Exactly. So anything you can do, I can maybe do better.
Right.
I think depending on the type of athlete and also what their roles are in the team and what their jobs are, and for the GC guys, it's all about efficiency, right? But as you increase your efficiency, you're burning less calories. You're putting less stress on the body, and so for those guys, it makes sense to be able to shorten the crank to increase the efficiency. In Tade's case, when he was riding his V4RS, when he went from 170.25 to 170 in one season, then he went 170 to 165, he also decreased his frame size, because when you shorten the crank, it helps to open the hip angle. It means you can lower the front of the bike further. So now you're increasing pedaling efficiency, but also increasing aerodynamic efficiency, right? So now he's doing less effort and less work with that shorter crank. But if you look at somebody like Jonathan Millar, right? He's 6'4", does 2,500 watts for 30 seconds. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration. You're not going to put him on 165s. He's going to be on 175s.
My theory is that when anyone gets a bike, they should maybe not get a bike fit, but they should at least get a bike sizing.
For sure.
Because I think people buy a bike. Do you do sizings by a chance?
I have a sizing bike. So if somebody, especially during the pandemic, bikes were sold out everywhere. So people were waiting 3 or 4 months to get a bike. And so they would go to the shop and go, okay, this is the bike I want. And they would order it, and the shop would tell them, well, it's going to be 5 months before it comes. And a lot of those people would then end up in my office, and we would size them appropriately on the size bike. And then from there, they can go back to the shop and either change sizes, or if they needed shorter cranks, they could negotiate potentially shortening the cranks. At that time, you could still get shorter cranks or stem lengths and things like that, right? So for people that don't have a bike that are wanting to buy the the right thing the first time, we can do we call it our fit first, right? So you come in, we fit you before you buy your bike.
What about if I hear I just bought a bike, I'm not comfortable on it, I don't really want to spend the money for a full fit yet. Do you do a sizing? Do you do a smaller program, or is that something you go to a bike shop for? Or do you guys do that also?
That's not something that I necessarily offer. All of the information that I have during a fit is available to the public, right? So it's not like things that I do are secret, but unfortunately with just the time frame that I'm booking out, it makes it a little bit tricky to just have people pop in and go like, is this the right size that I need? But honestly, a lot of bike shops can help. And not that I want to promote not people to not come see me, but there are even like AI bike fitting
just to get you started, get you comfortable. Because I feel if you're comfortable on the bike, you'll ride the bike. And if you're going to ride the bike, you're going to want to explore the bike fit, the next step to make sure, hey, I'm enjoying my bike, I'm comfortable on my bike. Now I really want to get the most out of my bike.
Absolutely.
And then I go to, of course, you go to Bosco Fits would be the place to go, or your local bike fitter, because everyone lives in this area.
Absolutely. There are qualified bike fitters all over the country and all over the world. So, looking into the credentials of the person that you're going to see and making sure that you're seeing somebody that is qualified and has some education in bike fitting and biomechanics, and it makes all the difference. But getting people going, like you had said, and getting comfortable on the bike then also allows people to come to see me with better feedback on then how I can provide a better service for them as well. Because when people come in with, I've never ridden a bike before, and we start adjusting things there, I don't even know what I'm supposed to feel in the first place, right? So it can be a little bit tricky with brand new people.
All right, I got a couple of questions for you, Andrew. We talked a little bit about the crank size and how that could benefit people, and we talked a little bit about some of the other benefits that one might expect. But how often should somebody get a bike fit?
That's a great question. It will sort of vary depending on person to person. Ideally, once a year. Once a year is maybe not always realistic for a lot of people. So for people that are doing the once or twice a week, really, I'd say like if you're doing something that is causing a biomechanical change, right? If you weren't stretching before and now you're stretching, that'll change your body and physiology. That would prompt you to want to come back in for another bike fit. If you changed jobs, your old job, you were working in a warehouse, you're standing up, you're walking around all day, and now you got promoted and you're in the top office and now you're sitting down the rest of the day, right? That's going to change the way that your body is used to operating day to day. That will change your biomechanics. You should come back in for a bike fit. The athletes that really I do encourage on an annual basis are the athletes that are doing large volume, right? The more time you're spending on the bike, the higher the reps, the higher the risk of overuse injury. So those are the people that on annual basis should come back in and see me more regularly.
Great. Sounds like I'm overdue.
It sounds like you're more than a couple of years old, but you can come by and check out the new renovations.
Oh, definitely. I see you brought some items with you this time.
The biggest thing for me when I'm working with athletes is improving the foot shoe pedal interface. I'm a bit passionate about the foot. When I started doing bike fits, the only thing I knew about feet is that I had two, right? And then the more attention I gave to the foot, the more performance gains I would see, the more comforts I would see, the less aches and pains people would experience. So I brought a wide shoe. This is a Bont Helix. This was sitting around in my office, but people often go, well, I bought a wide shoe, and there's a difference between a wide shoe and a wide toe box shoe. For example, your Shimano's or your CDs, they offer wide shoes, but their wide shoe, the sole of the shoe is the same as their standard width, but they increase the volume of the shoe to allow it to stretch to a wider width. Where a lot of people need a wide toe box shoe, where you would see that the forefoot of the shoe is actually more open. So,
like a Fred Flintstone shoe.
Yeah, exactly. More people's feet look like Fred Flintstone than they care to admit. Not to bash on any shoe brands, but I've never seen a foot that looks like a CD unless they have some type of foot dysfunction because they've worn stilettos for 50 years, and now their foot form has changed to where the third toe is much longer than their big toe.
Well, you know what shoe I wear. Right?
I know. Sorry, Dom. And then the other thing that I brought is a pair of insoles. A lot of people will ask me, and maybe this was a question that you're going to ask, and I'm just going to jump ahead, is like, what's one thing that I can do without getting a bike fit that can help improve? And getting a supportive footbed is like the biggest thing. and it's also one of the least expensive. This is a Trek Superfeet insole. They sell for $45 pre-inflation. I don't know what they are now, like $47, I think. Makes the shoe more comfortable. It makes the foot more stable. I'm pretty sure we put some of these in your shoes when you came in. You're probably overdue. You get about 10,000 miles out of something like this. If you do something full custom, the carbon fiber obviously lasts a lot longer. But yeah, adding a supportive footbed into the cycling shoe, to me, is single-handedly one of the best upgrades that anybody can make to improve their performance as well as increase the comfort. So I brought a 3D printed saddle as well, just in case, more current tech comes in.
I think we both are running 3D.
Yeah.
Are you running one too?
I am.
I find the comfort on those is pretty high.
I'm a tinkerer, so like my entire cycling career, I always want to know what the new thing feels like, what the latest trends are like. I rode 165 cranks for 6 or 7 years. I've since switched back to a longer crank since I'm doing a bit more BMX riding and racing these days.
You're still doing that after you, for people don't know, did you have I heard you had a little accident.
Yeah, 2 years ago, back in June of 2023, went over the bars, displaced, fractured my femur, broke my leg in half. But while I was laying in the ER, after we got the X-ray back, that like my leg was literally broken in half, Sam looked at me and said, "You're still going to ride bikes, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Okay, good. I just want to make sure."
It's going to take a lot more. It's going to take a lot more than that to get me off the bike.
But yeah, so I've ridden the saddle that I brought, which is the 3D printed Roman Evo. I rode the Sally Italia 3D printed saddle. I'm currently riding one of the Physique adaptive 3D printed saddles. So yeah, it's good tech. It's cool because with a traditional foam saddle, usually the density from the front to the back is the same. And as humans, when we put pressure on a bike seat, we need to have different amounts of density in the foam, and 3D printing allows for that. So the 3D printing, where your sit bones press into the seat is a higher density. And when you get to more sensitive areas, they decrease the density to alleviate pressure and increase comfort. So yeah, I brought one of these guys as well, just in case we want to talk about 3D printed things.
Yeah.
We just did.
Yep, there it is.
What's one of the main comments that you get back from maybe like a first-time customer that they come in, they get a fit, and maybe you reach out to them after a couple of weeks or so and you say, "Okay, how's it going?" Maybe is there like a follow-up after a fit?
Yeah.
Like a verbal follow-up, like, "Hey, where are we?"
Especially for athletes that are dealing with injuries or severe discomforts. I tell a lot of people when they leave, like, I would love to hear back from you, but I'll assume that no news is good news.
Sure.
But the only way I get better at my job is when people give me feedback. I need to know when things are working and are not working. Usually the first thing that people write back to me is, my shoes feel more comfortable and I feel like I can deliver a lot more power through the pedals, not necessarily always because of my saddle position, but because the stability we were able to create through the shoe. So yeah, that's really like the number one thing that most people come back to me with. And
I feel the relationship with the fitter and the rider is very important. I think that's more important than you find a guy, get a relationship with him, or a girl, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you get a relationship with it, because then you start knowing what works and doesn't work for the person. I think if you go get a fit, find someone that's qualified and you feel comfortable with, because you want to tell them like your deepest, darkest, pains and secrets almost when you're riding
like
the bike.
People's barber sometimes, or like if I charge what a therapist charged, then I probably wouldn't have to do as many bike fits with what we're talking about. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The greater the rapport, the easier it is to like dive into deeper and deeper things. Just a few weeks ago, I had Justin Williams in with his new Factor Monza, which is a super cool bike. And Justin's been coming to see me officially longer than some of the brands that he previously worked with allowed him to. But yeah, we've been working together for long. We raced together when we were kids, so that kind of helps. But yeah, the more bikes I see him with, the more equipment I see him with, the easier it is to get it set up. But then also it allows us to explore things that potentially will give him even more of an edge, because we are on the downtrending side of testosterone and all of those things. And so, for guys like Justin, who's still riding at the top at 36, I think he is now, same as me. Yeah, you have to edge out the competition through setup than you wouldn't necessarily have through natural hormones.
So for you guys that don't know Andrew was a better than average racer.
Thank you.
but accomplish it by working harder. Literally, we always joked, if you had the talent of a Jeremiah or a Justin Williams, you would be 100% world tour, because you trained harder. You like literally, if never missed a training thing, rode harder, and just
my physiology is better suited for playing chess than
it was,
bikes,
unfortunately, because you worked so hard, and you were like, and became a really above average. He was the example of what hard work gets you and where hard work ends.
And now I ride my bike less, and I work hard in my
yes, it was
studio instead.
Unfortunately, it was one of those. It was the saddest example of Andrew Bosco is doing everything right, and this is where this is it.
Yeah, but you know,
it was
the
fun.
cards are where they are, and I had a lot of fun racing bikes, and I still get out on the group ride, and you know,
and
do a city sprint once in a while with Jack and Eli, and try and keep up with those guys.
Oh, yeah. You've always and this is. You always helped out the juniors when you were a junior, not a junior. It was before when your sister was racing, and after you always were the guy out there with the juniors. It was fun. It was always fun to have around.
Giving back. I mean, I was so fortunate when I was coming up that I had people like Dom, Frank Schroeder, Eileen Olson, who was my original bike fitter. And I think, Dom, you were probably the one that recommended me to go see her. She actually married my wife and I. Fun fact, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact. God, I need to see that picture.
Yeah, but yeah, I always felt very fortunate that all of these people helped me. So I always felt like if I could, in some way, like repay that back to the future generation, and maybe like one of the greatest memories I have of Dom was when little Dom won his first crit. I think he was like 13 or 14 with his those like clear green radars that had just came out, and maybe I was a little bit envious of his like super cool new radars that I didn't have. But yeah, seeing like the excitement that Dom had when his son just won his first race, right? Like, and Dom is 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years younger than I am. But yeah, it was always fun to like see the kids progress and help them, you know, push the boundaries. And it's the same with what I do now, you know, working with kids like Jack and Eli and some of these other juniors that are up and coming. I feel it's important that as once being them to give back to those groups of kids. So, I mean, this last week was pretty huge with junior and Masters Nationals. I had Brian and Joy McCullough. Joy finished second in the road race, and Brian was third in his criterium. Eli won for the second time in Nationals, so awesome. You know, like, so yeah, it's super cool to be.
Jason luck of being on the show. He was on the show. He said he wanted to win, and he won. I think it's something. I think people should realize that and try to get on the show before a big race.
Yeah,
maybe we bring them luck.
I just realized that we could bring luck. Yeah. Hey, if you have a big event coming up and you want to be on the show, you know, DM us. We'll get you on.
So there's the magic is in the room here.
One last thing about fitting. So I got a big event next Saturday. Can I get fit on Wednesday?
Definitely not a good idea.
No?
Yeah, definitely not a good idea. There's always some like adaptation, you know, period. Even if it's just changing your cleat position or adding a footbed inside of a shoe, simple things like that can change your pedal mechanics. And because cycling is such a high repetition sport, right? You think about 80 RPMs a minute for 3 hours, like the number of reps that is, and that compound that times days of the week, making small changes before a big event is a good recipe for
100%.
Not always feeling so good. Typically, I tell people it's like a hard stop, if possible, of course, like 6 weeks before is kind of like anything more than that, or any time less than that, they're going to potentially diminish their ability to perform unless their bike is hurting them so bad that they can't, you know, pedal it around. But that's a different circumstance.
All right. I got one more question for you, and maybe we'll move on after that. Let's say you've got a guy who's kind of a weekend warrior, rides road, does the local group rides, that type of stuff, and he decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to take on a big time gravel ride.
Sure. It sounds like you, Scott.
It sounds an awful lot like me. I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah.
And they decide, okay, I'm going to get a gravel bike. And is the different discipline enough to get a bike fit at that point, or should they just set up that gravel bike like the road bike as best that they can, you know, matching it up with the tape measure in the garage?
Can I start first on this one?
Yeah.
So asking for a friend, your friend should realize he hasn't gotten a fit in a million years.
It's been a minute.
And you're a completely different bike. So I'm just going to start with that, and then I'm sure you have a lot more.
I'll tell you what.
Let your friend know something about that. But
we'll let the expert answer the question.
I really want to let the expert go, but I, as a non-expert, I'm going to go with the first two very obvious answers.
All right, but we'll let the expert answer it.
So the answer would be, if you don't have the availability to come in and see your bike fitter, setting it up in a way that you are accustomed to is going to give you the best ability to complete your event, then yeah, that's what you should do. If it's been a long time between when you fit your road bike and getting this new gravel bike, ideally you would come.
It's the second gravel bike since that fit, by the way. Just for that guy, I heard about him before. Yes,
my friend, my special friend,
special friend. Yes, it's the original bike fit. The gravel bike. Okay, yes, yeah. It's 3 bike sets. So
there's always a degradation to a breakdown of transferring measurements from one bike to the next bike to the next bike.
Especially when they're not the same bike.
Especially when it's not the same bike. Yeah, I joke that it's easy to do if you know how to work a tape measure, but not everybody knows how to work a tape measure. But your biomechanics is, and with my philosophies, is what determines your optimal bike position. So realistically, from a pedaling perspective, maybe your saddle heights will be pretty close, barring you're riding the same saddle on both the bikes. Maybe you're riding like an S-Works Torch shoe and an S-Works Recon shoe, where the sole of the shoe and the body of the shoe is the same, and account for the stack height difference between your road pedal and your mountain bike pedal. That'll get you pretty close with saddle position, but really the biggest difference between a road bike and a gravel bike is really focusing on the center of gravity in the center of the bike, because in a road position, you turn your bike by leaning your bike, but generally off-road, you turn your bike by steering your bike. And so by placing the center of gravity optimally more in the center of the bike allows the bike to handle better off-road compared to like leaning on your road bike. So yeah.
Let your friend know.
I'll let your friend know that.
I'll let my special friend know when he's overdue for a bike fit.
When he's overdue for a bike fit, or when he's about to pull the trigger, to also call his bike fitter so you can set up an appointment.
Excellent, thanks.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll pass that on.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm going to switch subjects here. We'll see how this works out. So I want to ask your opinion on, because you've been around for a long time in the cycling industry, and I want to talk about the degradation of clubs.
Sure.
There was you came when SCVL was 200 members, when PAA was 1,000 members. You had Lagrange was over 1,000 members. You had just big, powerful clubs, and now it's turned into these little 8 people here, 20 people here. I mean, clubs may have more, but they really don't. You know what I mean? So what's your opinion? Is it good for the bike industry, bad for it? I think my opinion is it's not that great, because it loses some of the power of a club, because I look at PAA, there's still 600 members. They can talk to a bike shop or sponsor, and they can say, hey, we are coming mass. We want some flex. But they lose the thing, because let's say you want your little Cat 3 group to get this stuff. Right. You don't get that. So it's kind of hard. It's interesting to see where that, lately it seems like people care more about what I can get from my 5 friends other than the overall for the big club.
Yeah, I think that as the clubs are getting smaller, right? Like with SC Velo, it's a community of people, right? Like you make friends through your club, because otherwise it wasn't people that you would have met. Maybe you would have been on the same, you would have been on the Buds ride with them, but you wouldn't have actually gotten to know any of these people and developed a relationship, which is ongoing. I think with like social media influencers, right? Like companies now are worried about sponsoring the individual that has the most followers, but not the club with the greatest amount of members, right? It's about total exposure. But it is unfortunate. I do agree with you from the community aspect, from the as a new rider, learning the I don't want to say the proper way to ride within a group, but like to understand the etiquette of a group ride and how to ride together. Like definitely, because there are less clubs and less club members, that definitely is disappearing, unfortunately. And so between that and Strava, right, like everybody just cares about PRing their climb or setting the fastest Strava time for the Saturday morning group ride. And so it's less about rider safety and taking care of each other, and more about like how fast can I go, and I don't need my club to help me get there.
100%. Because when I started SC Velo with Rick Thomas, our idea was to try to be like the biggest.
Yeah.
And we got pretty good size. And the whole thing was about the community and, trying to grow the community and the thing. And it seems like, I've even made an effort recently to try to get clubs to kind of merge, let's merge these clubs together and kind of do it. And there was, not only was there no interest, there was a lot of pushback. So
well, you got big egos in each group, probably, that nobody wants to be the one that folds and
that was
the bigger corporation.
Sure,
right. No one wanted to be what's the name going to be? I mean, does it matter?
Yeah.
I mean, the name should be, if we have a sponsor, what the sponsor is, that could, and it could be, whatever. But it was very different. It was very surprising when I tried to make the effort. Scott remembers less than about a year ago, to try to, hey, I'm no longer part of the sponsor.
Right.
And I have time. Let's try to get these guys all together. And, I've talked to the heads of the clubs now, and they were like, from being resilient to saying completely no. There was almost very little positively. Only person that was interested was surprisingly the mommies. They're like, hey, we'd love to kind of get, we'd love to get,
and that's very fitting of their like mantra and their ethos, right? It's like bringing each other up through being together and having fun together. It's probably, again, COVID doesn't help, but when was the last time that SC Velo had like the annual barbecue, right? Like every year at the end of the race season, like we would all get together at a park and we hung out together and we, potluck style and enjoyed each other's company off of the bike. And again, because there's less club involvement, like that doesn't exist.
Well, you remember the last Ontario, whatever the last race was, that was the first, it was a non-sanctioned barbecue. It was like, your mom would bring stuff, everyone else's people's stuff, and, everybody would have, it would be such a fun event. Whether you raced or not, you would come to this. Come to the race.
Yeah,
and now it's just
the glory days.
I know we're all. We should
living in the past.
Let's get the Bruce Springsteen song in the background here, singing Boiler Days. But I think that's the cycling community is missing that. I think it'd be so much more fun for these guys that are coming up now to have that, and you can't, because they go, who am I going to ride with? If I'm going to bring this to you because you're a local guy. I'm a new cyclist. I really enjoy the road. I might want to race. I'm not sure yet, but I really want to kind of find a group to get with. Who are you going to put them to?
I know.
I mean, I can't. Pat has his thing. He does an okay job for what he does. I think Pat does what he does well.
I think Pat, especially focusing now on the newer riders and getting people into the sport. I think if somebody was like, where should I go?
Every group has its quirks.
Yeah.
So you try to find a group that, and the bigger that is, the less quirks you would have, because you would have,
you find your sort of crew in your crew.
Right. And that's gone because now people go, I don't want that quirk. So they're like, before there's so many of us, it didn't matter. Like, that group's doing their thing, but who cares? We're going to do our stuff.
Or within the big club, right? Like you always had somebody to ride with. I remember going to the bagel ride and loosely affiliated, and it's like a loosely affiliated SC Velo, but it was always kind of one group, and it didn't matter if you were the strongest guy. There were guys that were just as strong as you, and if you were the slowest guy, there were people that were at the back encouraging you along, and that club community support is what helped bring all of us up over the years.
So how can we grow that?
How do we grow that? The golden question. You just have to maybe invite the whole club into this room, just like the Good Luck Bike Race. We'll get everybody in here.
We'll get a member from each club and have them all hang out together until they find a common ground. Because you think of how many clubs are just in this area. There's these little teeny ones here and there. You got Alfie's little club, and you got whatever, you can name them all, and you got Chris DeMarchi's club. You have all these guys that are here. There's 8 of them, 12 of them, 14 of them, and it's like, that doesn't do much for this. That doesn't do much for the cycling group.
I think now too, with the ability to get your own things and have your own kits made and get your own discounts through your various vendors with your small group, where in the past you kind of relied on being part of a bigger group, and the head of that group then talked to the vendors and the brands and the sponsors, and you're once a year when you ordered your kit by filling out the form of what size you needed, because that was the only way to get kits. And like now I can go on to any major cycling clothing brand website and put my logo on a jersey and promote my club that way. And of course, then everybody else can do that. So it's hard to get everybody to come together. Right. But, yeah, it would be nice to see the club thing come back and, people get together more.
Greater community, not just
exactly.
individual. It's a hard thing. Maybe it's societal. I don't know, but I do miss it.
Help. Yeah.
I miss it because
you have to unfriend everybody on Facebook, so you don't have to know any of their other views and things. You could just
I know.
You could just ride bikes together.
Yeah. I mean, because it didn't. The cool thing about riding a bike in a big group like that, you find enough people, and if it doesn't matter if we have the same views on stuff, because you ride next to the guy for 5 minutes and then you're next to him, you talk about, then you go back to him again and you pick up that same conversation.
But all that we had talked about always, right, is who's going to win the tour, what bike is coming out.
Thanks again for being on. It was great to have you on. It's great we catch up with you after, it's been a while. We see each other on the road, we wave, but it's nice to have you in here.
Yeah, most of the time now when I'm riding, I'm only able to wave because I'm breathing out of my ears, so it's hard to get any words out.
We've all seen it. We've seen it behind Samantha, believe me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. And
thanks. I'll let my friend know to give you a call.
Yeah, perfect.
Set up an appointment.
Sounds good.
All right, guys, again, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. You do the thing that you do all the time. Again, comments, we love them. Last week I got a lot of direct messages, so don't be afraid to put them on YouTube. So just put them right on there instead of DMing me. Just put them out there for everyone else to see. There were some pretty good ones.
Can I plug myself? You can also, if you have
100%
questions, Bosco Bike Fits on all of the social media platforms, and you can email as well. So I'm happy to answer any fit related questions that come through.
He's a legend in this area. So if you're looking for a fit, go see him.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again.